I get it.
Okay, mbijan aganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la.
Ha, code nyingi.
Okay. Kosa. Nsila ID soto.
Sa soto. Sorry. I get it.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariya. Mbare ki janna nun kunu bara tariya.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong blabe to.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jam.
Ha?
Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nka kodo kiya bere to. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannam number 1 ti nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale le dadi ma nin domorol ni fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelenta
ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.
Him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But
Don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
For the first time in the history of the Gambia, Gambia Printing Publishing Corporation proudly introduces the Biliomatic exercise book printing machine. The machine has the capacity to print more than 20,000 books per hour. Yes, 20,000 books per hour. It also prints magazines, newspapers, calendars, flyers, normal books and all kinds of printed documents plus items at affordable prices. With the Biliomatic printing machine, GPPC can now render high-quality and non-size restricted printing service supply across the sub-region. Rush now and partner with GPPC for all your public and private printing service needs. Print with us today and you'd be offered highly professional, reliable and efficient service delivery by our team of experts. The Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation is here to meet all demands and is reliable at all times. For more info, contact us on 437-4493 or 437-4402. GPPC is Gambian and it's yours.
And welcome to the Brunch on Kerr Fatou Live. I am Lamin Manneh and this is our weekly look at current affairs. This week we focused our discussion on the Senegambia Bridge. Last week, of course, the nation heard from the Minister of Finance that the Gambia government had entered into an agreement with an organization called Africa 50-50 for what they call assets recycling. Of course, to the layman, of course, what it means now, what we know now, is that $100 million will be given to the Gambia government straight away, and the new management will be holding onto the bridge, levying fees until another 25 years. Well, that's like I said, that is what the layman knows. That's why today we centered the program on trying to unravel what this could mean, and if there are implications, what are they for the country. As we speak now, the Minister of Finance is at the moment hosting a press conference, apparently trying to shed more light on this issue, which have been roundly condemned and criticized by Gambians. Minister, of course, said this is a novelty, and there is nothing to lose for the government and the people of the Gambia. Of course, we will have more opportunity to hear from the minister, but so far, what he has explained was that there's nothing to fear. Now, with me in the studio to discuss this matter and other matters is Mr. Lamin Manneh. He is a former official of the African Development Bank, a member of the opposition United Democratic Party. Welcome, Mr. Manneh.
Thank you very much.
And I have Mustapha Darboe, investigative journalist from the investigative portal Malagen. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, like we said, of course, the major story of the day, of course, the mortgaging, so to speak, of the Senegambia Bridge. Last week, we heard from international press, actually, the Minister of Finance, C.D. Kerr, explaining the issues. I'll go straight to Mr. Manneh. Mr. Manneh, you are a former official of the African Development Bank, and I gathered this Africa 50-50 is a subsidiary of the African Development Bank. Let's start by educating our audience. In fact, what is this Africa 50-50? And from your understanding, what actually is the agreement that the Gambia government had with this Africa 50-50?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be here on your program, and good morning to all your listeners. And Africa 50 is a subsidiary of the African Development Bank. What happened in the year 2011, we had put together the African Development Bank, the African Union Commission, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, based in Addis. We came together, we put together our infrastructure development projects, because the African Development Bank had just done what was the Africa Regional Integration Strategy. And we were graduating from NEPAD. And NEPAD also had put together a number of projects for infrastructure development in Africa, which were being financed by the African Development Bank.
Yes. Indeed.
So just quickly, the African Development Bank was the financing arm of this tripartite agreement between the African Union Commission, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, and the African Development Bank. We came together as a group. These three institutions, Pan-African institutions, came together. African Development Bank was in charge of financing of all the projects of the African Union Commission on the continent.
I see.
The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa was primarily leading on studies and knowledge products. But we were doing it together. African Development Bank and ECA were leading on those issues.
Okay.
And the African Union Commission was leading on the political arm, that is the adoption by those programs by the heads of state and their popularization on the continent. So that is what the arrangement we had. So each of us had our infrastructure development programs, and we put them together, and we came up with what was called the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, P-I-D-A.
Yeah.
So PIDA also had what was called a Priority Action Program. And these were the programs which were going to be implemented as a priority on the continent, and the priority infrastructure projects. And on the PIDA, we realized the infrastructure deficit of the continent. Well, we realized it before, but we highlighted it.
Yeah.
The infrastructure deficit of the continent was such that African Development Bank alone could not finance it. So we're doing co-financing with a number of institutions, the World Bank, the European Investment Bank, etc., and doing parallel financing with the Islamic Development Bank on some of these issues. Because of the Sharia compliance, they wouldn't do co-financing, they did parallel financing. But it's basically the same thing, we've co-financed the projects. And it was decided at the time by the heads of state in 2012 that we should set up another infrastructure financing mechanism. This time to be financing more or less at market rate. because we had this huge deficit and all of the programs could not be financed at concessional rates. So the countries which are middle income countries on the continent, which had more facilities, and also their private infrastructure development could be financed from PIDA. So we wanted to have, from Africa 50. Africa 50 was set up for that sort of thing, to finance infrastructure, but at a higher rate than the ADB's rates. ADB has concessional rates for most of the African countries, from the ADF, because we had basically the ADB window and the ADF window. The ADF window was a concessional financing, and that was where most of the African countries got their funding from. So this is what we use for infrastructure development. Africa 50 is supposed to be for more wealthy middle-income countries to be able to finance infrastructure, and most of the times what? Income-generating infrastructure, which would yield profits over a very short term. So they could easily make up for that extra cost in funding. So that was Africa 50's main objective.
So,
mandate.
So I take it then, the mandate of Africa 50 is in line with what just happened between them and the Gambia government. What exactly have the minister said when he said this asset recycling?
Yeah, that is the problem. Because one, we don't know exactly what the minister signed. He should make that document public so that we all know what is behind
Let's
that
hope
document.
that he would make that known at the press conference that's happening, as I said. As we speak now, the press conference.
This was being negotiated since last year. Documents were signed in January, in March, etc. And nobody in the Gambia knew about it officially.
Yes, in fact,
so
even
this
after
should have
the signing,
been public. Because, just a little digression, Article 155 of the Constitution, or call it Section 155, Paragraph 1, requires the government to get a resolution for this kind of arrangements being made. And then Sections 2 to 6 requires it to bring it to Parliament, of Article 55, to bring it to Parliament and get it endorsed and approved by Parliament. So he cannot just go and sign those agreements. I heard him the last time saying he wants Africa 50 to go ahead quickly with implementation. You cannot implement these things unless they are approved by Parliament. If you do not do that, you are derelict in duty.
We have had commentaries and suggestions from Gambians, so very often in economic matters, saying that, yes, like you said, Parliament should have a role in this. And the government has been arguing that it's not a loan. I mean, people are saying that it has all the features of a loan since there is a collateral, hence the need for it to go to the assembly.
This is a loan, but it's more than that. We are mortgaging an income-generating asset at a 15% interest rate. Because you call it what you want. They call it in the IRR, internal rate of return of 15%.
Yes, that's what they say.
To all intents and purposes, that's the interest rate on the loan. So we have $115 million
$100
loan.
million we had.
100 million,
115 million
plus a markup of 15 million, which is the interest levied on that loan. They call it the IRR, the internal rate of return, but to all intents and purposes, it's an interest.
Yeah, of course.
So there's a 15% interest on that loan. Who finances infrastructure at 15%? It's a folly. You finance infrastructure from concessional loans when you are as poor as the Gambia, not from market rate interest rates. That is already the first flaw in this whole arrangement. Secondly, we are told it's 100 million.
Yes.
From what we are getting, there are still negotiations of this amount. It could go up. We are even hearing $150 million in the end to be paid to the Gambia because the infrastructure was undervalued.
Yeah, how do they go about, in your experience, what is the value of the Senegambia Bridge in a layman? For example, let's go back to how much money the government itself admitted last time is collected from there. We have a video where the Minister of Finance, Sidi Keita himself has been talking about the kind of money that's received or raised from the Senegambia Bridge monthly. Apparently, what happened was he was, patting himself, so to speak, on the back for implementing certain measures that really dramatically increased the revenue there. So let's hear from him what he had to say in terms of the amount of money that's collected from the Senegambia Bridge. Sire, you can help us with the video?
Point noted, Julie. On the issue of corruption, well, of course, you don't need just legislation to fight corruption. We have had a taste of what it takes to close loopholes. And again, I will take this opportunity to tell you the priority direction and the Minister of Finance and the government overall, and at Cabinet for that matter. We are working on enhancing public transparency, public accountability, and value for money expenditure. To those extent, we believe there are just nascent steps started, but the results have been eye-watering. One simple example we will say is, it's not only government that is corrupt. Corruption is a cross-cutting issue. And there is more corruption in the private sector than in the government. We all know the government represents a fraction of the world economy. And government officials cannot do corruption among themselves. They do it jointly with the private sector. So, to fight it, government is the wrong place to look for. I can tell you that. So, a simple example, we talk, and I was traveling with my colleague ministers at Brussels, and I wanted to run a simple experiment to say, well, let's look at people are accusing government officials of being corrupt. In Brussels airport, you have a cage where water bottles are, and you are told €1 each. You just put €1 and then you pick. And I said, I want to run a similar experiment in Gambia to see how people will react. And the feedback I got, you don't need to do it, because not even the water alone, but the money will all be taken away. So it was I couldn't even start it. But we've started nudging our way to fight. It's an endemic issue, and it's not unique to Gambia. One example I will say, I will quote here, which we did recently, was in June. We all know the Senegambia Bridge. The way the revenue was collected, it was managed by the Revenue Authority, like the ferry services. And I think that was the first trek we took to the provinces to see what's happening. We were not very convinced about the collection mechanism, and we changed it. Before the June 2021, the revenue collected for that month was 17 million. When we implemented the change, the revenue collected in June of 2022 was 47 million. And that's not enough. We continue to see increases month after month after month. And for the month of August, the revenue collected was 59 million. And this is exactly what simple, no technology, just a swap of rules. And we cannot do it alone. Gambia belongs to us all. Don't see us as ministers and see us as privileged ones. No. We have the hardest job, because to whom much is given, much is expected. And we are in charge of public posts, where the poorest of the poor's lives and livelihood are hoping on us. We are doing our best, but we cannot do it alone. And we will continue to leverage on partnership with the donor community, with the private sector, and of course, John, with the civil society. So.
So, there we had the Minister of Finance himself saying that, that was in August 2022, he was talking about at least 59 million, he said,
Yes.
has been collected monthly after those interventions he described. The revenue went dramatically up 59 million per month. I've had this argument that you only mortgage or recycle assets that are doing bad. But if he himself is admitting that revenue being collected from the bridge is rising because of the interventions, up to 59 million a month. So in that kind of situation, do you need this asset recycling?
Precisely. And for me, that begs two questions. 2020, the Minister of Works told us we were getting 15 million from the bridge. 2021, early 2022, we were told we were getting about 20 million from the bridge. Now he's telling us with some slight technological adjustments, we are getting 59 million.
Yeah.
So where was all the difference going before? Which again points to the enormous corruption in this government. That is the first point. Second point, if we are making 59 million from that bridge per month, that is what? Almost $1 million per month.
Yes, almost.
And we're going to mortgage.
A little over $1 million.
Yes. Let's conservatively, let's say $1 million a month.
Yeah.
And we're going to mortgage that bridge for 25 years.
Yes.
And that 25 years at 1 million a month, that is 300 million. So we are mortgaging an asset which is worth at least 300 million at the current rate.
At the current rate.
To an outfit which is going to make enormous profits on it.
Yes.
I am from the African Development Bank, and I was part of the establishment of Africa 50. And we know we need that kind of facility. But why do we give it out to them?
Let's go back in the layman's terms.
Yes.
According to the minister's own
Admission,
estimate, admission, 59 million a month.
Yes.
In fact, even that is a little over $1 million
Yes.
in today's exchange rate.
Exactly.
You are telling me if you go by that $1 million a month in 25 years,
that is 300
that
million.
is $300 million. And how much are they giving us today? According to the agreement, it's not 100 and
that's what we heard from him is 100 million.
100 million.
We are hearing rumors down the grapevine that they are negotiating up to 150. Is it true or not? Time will tell.
Well, he said 100 million.
Yes, but what we're
that
getting...
means we are giving these people $200 million right away.
And what he is saying, is that 100 million over 25 years, or if we get that amount earlier.
Yes.
That's what he said.
So
now,
are we not getting
the amount or the year, whichever comes first?
Yes.
The amount or the year?
Yes.
All right, can you explain to us, when are we going to get this money? For example, is it immediately?
It's anybody's guess at the moment, because we don't know what he has signed. We haven't seen any document. He has been sitting on that document. Nobody knows exactly what we're getting when. One point is, he, by his own admission, we are not sitting on that Africa 50 management of the bridge. So they will only report to us. So we do not know how much money we are making from Africa 50.
I see.
Now we are hearing that there's going to be a revenue sharing formula 60-40. But I mean, the dramatic thing is we're hearing all of these things about a major infrastructure for the country, and all we're getting is rumors, and he telling foreign press agencies without talking to the national media outlets. Without showing us a document. What is that telling us?
Almost immediately. And I remember what he said was, actually, they went there to sign, and before signing, they don't have a story. And when they signed, that international journalist happened to be there. So he granted an interview, but he was always going to come to explain to the Gambian people. Hence, the press conference that is happening, like I told you, as we are here on air.
Well, this was
that was the explanation.
This was being negotiated for months now.
Yeah, negotiation
the
time.
Gambian people should have been informed through our press.
Yes, now you got the point.
When the signature was made, he should have kept the primacy of the information for the Gambian press to tell the Gambian people, not us hearing it from outside sources. That is wrong to start.
And that's what happened.
Okay. What I'm saying, more importantly here still, is why are we mortgaging such an income-generating infrastructure to a facility which is charging us 15% interest? Why can't we finance those those projects from concessional resources elsewhere? What we have been doing so far is we prepare good bankable projects and get them financed through normal concessional windows of the development finance institutions.
So in other words, there is no desperation
for
them to go into this arrangement in the name of infrastructure development when there are better means of doing it at painless.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Yes, there are better avenues of financing this kind of projects at much cheaper rates. The problem is this government has lost credibility. And people are not wanting to put their funding into these government's projects anymore. So now they are looking for alternative ways of raising funding through this sort of procedure. Otherwise, why would you want to go for a 15% interest rate on a project where you can get funding at concessional rates of much less than that? 2-3% we're talking about here. Why are you going for 15%? And you telling us that it's over 25 years or when the Africa 50 recovers its investment. And we do not know when the investment is going to be recovered because we are not sitting on the management board. We are only being told what is being received and how much is being received. That's what he's telling us. That needs to change this as well.
Okay,
but if I can just add one final point.
Yeah.
When you have that sort of arrangement in place, you want to make sure that the income generation from the Trans-Gambia Bridge, I call it Trans-Gambia Bridge because when we are funding it at the ADB, the name was Trans-Gambia Bridge.
Even that has a touch of controversy because Gambians want it to be called Trans-Gambia Bridge.
Yeah, I mean, for me,
they said
what is in the name? What is in the name? For me, I'm saying this because sometimes I'll be referring to it as Gambia Bridge because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So, what officially is called Senegambia Bridge. But if you are going to take that sort of infrastructure to mortgage, the funding from that should at least go into funding another income-generating infrastructure where you will be making money, not take money from that sort of infrastructure and then putting it in administrative expenditure virtually. What he is telling us is they're going to put it in road construction.
Yes, that's what he said.
And we do not know which roads is going to be. We have issues. One, we have very poor quality roads being built, so which requires huge maintenance costs, even before they get finished.
Not long ago, some critics have even, or some analysts have already said this money might just be spent straight away because we have 861 million that we agreed to borrow for the second phase of the Batil Hardin Highway. 861 million.
Yes.
That's a loan that's just freshly been approved by Parliament, and we have the Hakalan Road incomplete.
Absolutely.
So people are saying that this money might just go to complete those.
It could go to those projects already.
That's
a possibility.
Initial fundings for those roads.
The mismanagement, the same mismanagement. This government is characterized by corruption and mismanagement. That has been the thing we see every day in every single project in this country. When this change happened with the UDP ministers leaving government, this government went into a nosedive. Everything is corruption, corruption, corruption. Because if it is done normally, when you get this kind of funding, he should set up what is called an SPV, special purpose vehicle, in which you park that funding until you design the projects. But normally, the projects should have been designed before. You design your good bankable projects, and then you negotiate the funding. Once you get the funding, it goes into those projects. But he is negotiating funding even before doing projects. So the likelihood of that funding going into the wrong places is very high. We already have an internal domestic debt of about 3.1 billion from the Ministry of Finance's own website, which we need to pay this year. They do not have the money to pay those $3.5 billion this year. Part part of this money could go into that. They have to show us that it's not going there. But I do not give them the benefit of the doubt for that. Where is this money going? We do not know. So a good chunk of this money could go into paying of debt, could go into administrative expenditure, could go into producing bad quality, non-income generating infrastructure.
Good. We'll come back to Mr. Nyari for more in-depth analysis. Mustapha, what's your take, in fact, on the whole thing, the Senegal baby? When you had, I'm sure you had it from the same source, foreign media, that Gambia has gone into an agreement with this Africa 50 for what, for all intents and purposes, mortgaging of the Senegal bridge.
So, like most people, I guess all of us started with asking questions about the contract document, because that's supposed to be the starting point. With the records so far available in terms of the conduct of public officers, I think it's hard to take people's word for things. And having signed access to information bill into law, I would expect that Gambia government would now make it a habit to publish contract documents. This is supposed to be public information. So finance minister should not have waited to hold a press conference and say, take my words for things. You know, we have had history here. I mean, we have had tax exemptions being given to companies, and we have a whole government to hold a press conference and tell people they are paying tax.
They're paying tax.
Only for journalists to come and
To
fact
find
check
out
it.
that we are not paying tax.
Yes, so the most ideal thing is to just publish the contract document, make it available on the Minister of Finance website, let people sort through it, and you know, raise issues as they may find them. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is that I was wondering, why did it not go through to the parliament? The Gambian intellectual has this habit. Each time people come and ask questions, they say, you don't understand. As though what they are dealing with is nuclear physics. It's not normal people. It's beyond everyone's not normal, but everyone's understanding.
Well,
I mean, like for example, you were talking about. He was talking about.
How do you call it? Is it atomic energy?
But this is not that, unfortunately. This is just simply they went and take a loan. Simply, they went and take money from...
They don't even want it to be called a loan.
No, but in the simple terms, they went and took 100 million from someone. And the payment arrangement is for that someone to now manage our Senegambia bridge and recover his money, and on top of it, 15 million. That is loan. They are going to get an upfront payment of 100 million.
Yes. That's what they say.
And that's what they say now. That person who, the creditor, the person who is giving us that money, is the one who will now recover his money through the management of our bridge. So the bridge is a payment arrangement. By my understanding, and this is supposed to be very simple, no?
Now, who will levy? Who will now levy?
A payment arrangement?
Who will now levy fees? This body?
No, they are saying that these people, the 100 million they give us, they will recover it from our bridge, right? And of course, 15%, which is $15 million. So if they recover the 115 million within 10 years or 5 years, then of course, then they hand over our bridge. So the bridge can come back to us even in 5 years. Suppose they recovered that fund, and they are 15%. But they found 115 million. But if they don't, they have also the latitude to manage it for 25 years. That's the arrangement. But the point is also,
before even you advance the problem, that is, if they are, we hope they are going to get their money fast enough, that will involve increasing.
But there are several questions. For example, while they are managing the bridge, if the bridge collapsed as a result of some natural incident or accident, what then happens? Who fixed the bridge? And because it's our bridge, if there is infrastructural, if there is anything happens that affects the integrity of the infrastructure, who fixes it?
Maybe we'll know from the contract.
Of course, they will be managing it. So those are questions. And also, you have a bridge and you are managing the bridge, right?
The regular maintenance.
Yes, the regular maintenance, but also even the monitoring of the revenue collection. So, for example, you had questions. The Gambia government said they were at one point raising 12 million. In fact, someone told me from Minister of Finance yesterday that they get 12 million per month.
But the minister just
And the minister just said
59 million.
Yes, but then that shows you also that because a colleague of mine called me yesterday, who was also a critic, and he was on Kerr to discuss it, to say that when he was passing the bridge, you know, they've put this accountability measure there, so that when a vehicle is passing, the barriers.
Yes.
Yeah. So they said each time you put those barriers there, they will damage it. So there is from what they are saying, corruption at the bridge. So when they plug those holes, then the revenue pushes up. So the problem now is, it means we have accountability issues. So if you bring Africa 50 there, what sort of accountability regime do we have in place to show they are not underreporting, so that the revenue that they are collecting is adequately reflected, so that when they are done, we know they are done. The other thing is, I think the only reason why government went for this arrangement, and by all accounts it's a loan. Let them not come. No, they did this during Banjul project. When we said this is a loan, they come to parliament and say EPC. Only God knows what it is. So they come with very high sounding slogans. This is engineering, procurement, and whatever. Yeah. So the parliament folks at the parliament were confused. Like, what is when they said this is a procurement, they said no, this is EPC. Like they do this all the time. So they said this is asset recycling. But the point is, you've taken someone's money and you have no constitutional power to contract loan without approval of the National Assembly. This is simply a loan. The Banjul project in itself, the pre-financing arrangement they have chosen in itself, is also a loan. Because someone is giving you money which you are going to pay. You understand what I mean? That's loan, right? That should have been approved by the National Assembly. Now the other issue is that we had a public debt structure that is almost about $100 billion, $1 billion aside from $100 billion, right? That's almost, we are approaching $2 billion. $2 billion. Now the Gambia government has reached a situation where we were in 2016. Because you remember when Barrow came in 2016, we were in the red zone. You know, they call it, debt distress. Yeah, that was the level we were, and we almost at the same level again, because when they came and they had some advice that, look, you guys, it has been a long time, you've not calculated your GDP. In other words, your GDP had expanded, most likely. And so if you increase, if the GDP increases, the debt to GDP ratio falls, right? So the debt, Barrow did not pay our debt or reduce our debt. No. They merely recalculated our GDP to show, our GDP has increased from 1 billion to 2 billion. It's like if you are putting this laptop in a pan, and that pan is this laptop size. What do? You expand the pan. So you expand the pan, the laptop goes in. The laptop hasn't shrunk in size. Itself, It's the pan that has expanded.
So it's the portfolio that has been increased.
Yes. So it's the debt to GDP. It's the GDP that they increased. Yes. Whether that is realistic or not, they calculated, I don't know, horticulture, so that they now had a latitude to borrow more. And they started borrowing. We were 58 billion. Yeah. Now we are 90 something billion.
101 billion.
Yes.
So conservative estimate.
Yes. So you see now, so I think they've gotten to a point when they have hit the red line above. Yeah. So this is just another innovative way of taking loan. But it's loan nevertheless.
He said it's another innovative way of
yes.
But it's a loan anyway. But what do you say, before we go to Mr. Manneh, what do you say about the implications? I mean, we've just been saying that, okay, if they get their monies, they recoup their monies within a short possible time, we get back our bridge. I'm trying to say, and many people said so, that that will involve, I mean, an increase in the tariff if you want to get the money. That's
a likely consequence, but that's something they can manage. The government can itself have an arrangement with Africa 50, because considering the potentials this particular infrastructure has shown to raise money, up to 59 million a month.
According to the minister.
They are not under any pressure. 59 million, 5 years, 25 years, they are not under any pressure.
Yes.
So there is an opportunity, there is a chance they may not, because they don't need to increase the tariff to be able to raise it. All that they need is to make it more efficient, the collection more efficient. But the point I'm trying to make is that the only reason why Gambia government went for this arrangement is to raise the $100 million. That's it, because it's not the collection. The collection they have found a way. You see, we had this.
So they just badly need money now.
They just badly need money, and the sum the bridge cannot provide in a year.
Yes.
So they put
they
all the money the bridge can provide in a
basically a loan.
Yes. So it's a loan. I mean, the parliament should not allow this to pass.
Yeah.
The parliament should call the finance minister.
Yes.
And make sure that corrective measures are taken. So this is definitely a loan.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Manneh was discussing, supposing they even get the money, supposing we got the money, and the government's explanation is that they're going to put it more into more infrastructure. He is worried that there are problems with that, because we have had, issues. You yourself investigated procurement processes that have been, that we are prone to corruption, etc. So if they have $100 million and they say they're going to put it into infrastructure, aren't we going to be worried again that problems such as the Banjul project and others might happen again?
Well, I mean, already we are at the heart of tons of procurement nightmares. I mean, particularly 3 out of the stories we do on corruption matters are related to public procurement. And when you raise questions, one thing they do, in fact now they've grown habit of this, they put a confidential clause in a public document.
Really?
To show that it cannot be published. Yes. You go to them and they tell you, no, there is a confidential clause in the document, we can't publish it. And they've just signed access to information bill. So the first problem is failure, the lack of accountability, the lack of transparency. The second issue is that there is no scrutiny often in the process. Like, for example, the finance ministry should not have gone and negotiated this contract without bringing this to the parliament. This is a critical state infrastructure that you are going to give to a private sector, a private individual, a company, a business, an investment bank somewhere, without the critical input of the National Assembly of the Gambia. So that should not happen. And in the first place, in a normal society, it could have been subjected to public critique. Like, for example, at this point, all that we may have been saying might be a waste of time. Because probably they had already penned the deal.
Absolutely.
And all of the correctional measures that should have been inputs that should have been taken into account may in fact have been late. So you don't put the cart before the horse. And the other thing is, I mean, if you are going to build a road, right, in Senegal, they have had arrangements where they build new roads and they are collecting tolls on those roads. You've seen in Senegal.
Yes.
Now, there are certain critical infrastructures that you could make an arrangement to generate revenue in themselves. But in this particular case, I don't know how they intend to spend this money. But it looks like they badly need money and they make some quick arrangements
to get money.
And so the justification now needs to be provided is, where is this money going to go? The 100 million, where is it going to go? Because if it goes into remember, the Senegambia bridge has a potential to raise up to 59 million. If this goes into another unproductive investment, it means we've wasted 9 years of not collecting revenue, of losing the revenue at the Senegambia bridge. And we've collected 100 million that we've totally wasted. It means the Senegambia bridge is as good as not existing for a 9-year period. That is going to be under the management of these people.
It's so, like when you when you misspend your loan, you are strangulated to pay the loan.
Yeah, because loan is supposed to be made in such a way that it's supposed to pay itself.
Yeah.
But not just pay itself, it is also supposed to create a situation where revenue generation is established such that you don't go back to so that nobody takes a loan to go and buy a new car. Because if you do that,
unless you make it a taxi, perhaps.
Well, even if you made it a taxi, it's so vulnerable because you can just have an accident the following day. So those kind of things.
So basically, the argument, Mr. Manneh, is that the government wants money badly.
Yes.
And you are suggesting that they could have a better and painless ways, if at all infrastructure development is their goal and objective, there are more painless and more effective ways of doing so without these arrangements.
Absolutely.
So people, that begs the question, what is the desperation to go into this arrangement?
The desperation is that this government is cash strapped, period. They are in desperate need of funding. Look, they are trying to repackage a concept that is not acceptable, is not palatable to the Gambian public or to any public anywhere. We do not want to mortgage our infrastructure, particularly income-generating good infrastructure. So we try to spin it, we repackage it, we give it different names to confuse people. Mustapha just said, they will tell you, oh, you don't understand.
Yeah.
If you are the expert, you tell me what you mean.
Yeah.
If you cannot convince me about what you mean, then two things: you are either dishonest or you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you know your subject matter, you know what you're talking about, tell me why this is that, so that I understand. You are supposed to tell me. I'm not the expert.
Absolutely.
I'm just a layman in the Gambia. You are the expert. Tell me so that I understand, so that I know what you're selling me. I know what you're doing to my money. But they won't tell you because they want to confuse you. And the tendency is that when you say those things, people don't want to look ignorant. They say, oh, okay, they just keep quiet and let it go.
Yes.
So that is deliberate to make you feel ignorant, and I don't want you to be so that you don't ask questions.
Yeah.
But however you spend this, the bottom line is you are mortgaging our useful infrastructure, and you are using it for things which are not beneficial in the short term. If you are not so cash strapped and you need infrastructure development, let us prepare good bankable projects. There is money out there. I keep saying this, when you have a good project that is bankable, you will raise funding. The international investors, the development partners, they have money to spend. They want to spend it. ADB raises money every time to finance development on the continent. Every 3 years, we replenish the African Development Fund, which are the concessional resources, to be able to fund development on the continent. When you take that money, you can leverage it to bring in more money. The 1.7 that was pledged to the Gambia, we were the darling of the international community.
At the time,
if we had used that 1.7 billion, you wouldn't get the entire 1.7, because what is pledged, you will get maybe 1.3, 1.4. But even 1.3, 1.4, if you leverage that, you can bring in another $2 to $3 billion on top of the 1.4, 1.3, 1.4 billion. What can you do with that in the Gambia? Enormous things. Currently, if this government were to put an end to the massive corruption that we see every day and enhance its reputation, it can raise funding again for projects at much cheaper rates. You prepare a good project.
But they claim they still have the goodwill of and the trust of the donors community.
Then why is the $1.7 billion not coming in? People have stopped paying those sort of money because you see that everything you bring in goes into a bottomless pit, and you don't see the end.
Every time I hear IMF approving to give them budget support, they said that's because they trust them.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate because, to be frank with you, the IMF should not be giving them the sort of support they're giving them, because that is misleading. The IMF knows that the country is not performing. And if we continue at this rate, I'm going to be very frank, I'm from the development finance community, there are certain things we try to avoid saying. Well, let's be very frank here. If we continue down this road, what are we staring at? we're going to get to a position where we almost are. We won't be able to borrow because we are debt distressed and we are not solvent anymore. We won't get funding, and before long, they're going to slap a huge structural adjustment program on the country. And all the social services are going to be cut dramatically. Education is going to suffer. Health is going to suffer. It's already suffering. It's going to suffer more. Agriculture is going to suffer. All of those social programs are going to suffer because we have heavy structural adjustment programs which are going to be imposed on the country. And that is no good for anybody. We will have to go back to a round table to renegotiate the debt of this country like was done in 2016-17 when Jammeh left. That is where we are already.
That's where we are.
We are in a state of insolvency. This government is insolvent. They can spin it whichever way they like it. They are insolvent. The corruption is killing this country. Every single project, when they started, they give it a value. It's going to cost so much. It's going to take so long. And never one of them was completed on time and on budget. What does that tell you?
Absolutely.
That is massive corruption.
Absolutely. Not like it's like, but that's the case. Like this road, that's in Harding Highway Road. You've talked about how many trenches. I think they went for the third one. There was a first one. So they keep saying there are variances. But the thing is, if there are variances, I don't have a problem with what government says. Just don't tell me. Dump the document somewhere. Let me go and read it myself. Maybe that's my job, but that is what I believe. Don't come and tell me there are variances. Bring me the contract document. Let me read it myself. Let me see the variance myself. The Banjul project, this is what happened. They would make a budget, and then they come and make variances and say, we have added this roads, we have reduced that road, we have this particular part is no longer part of it. They do that on almost all the projects. Yes, all the time.
At the moment,
follow any infrastructure project in the Gambia, they do that. And the problem is, like what Manneh was saying, the issue of the debt. This is the problem I have with it. We keep saying, oh no, it's not bad to take a loan. Yes, everybody knows that. It's common sense. We borrow at individual level, but we don't borrow to go and mess it up, right? We borrow, we spend, we generate more money, we pay, right? So if this country has been borrowing, so until Jammeh left, the debt to GDP ratio we were 56 billion, around, they said at least one or because at the time the GDP was around 48. Something like that. So it was like debt to GDP ratio around 108%.
Absolutely.
Now these people they claimed to have rebased it, and they said, well, we calculated now the GDP is $2 billion. So they started borrowing. That gave them latitude. They borrow more and more. And I have issues with this international development partner. The IMF, the World Bank and things. Because clearly when we rebased, IMF and World Bank they are not activists. They are not activists. The development of the Gambia is not dependent on IMF and the World Bank. It is what the finance ministry and the government of the Gambia does. It's not on them. So they can see you messing up. And they don't even go to, they don't talk to journalists.
They
don't have critical analysis. Sometimes they have critical documents that they don't publish.
Why is it, Mr. Manneh, that he's made a point? IMF, African Development Bank,
they are not activists.
When you ask them about the state of any country that they are involved with, they come with this diplomatic fineness.
The economy is growing.
The economy is growing,
we can't repay our debt.
You hardly see them come out, bluntly to address adverse things in the economy of countries they are dealing with. Why?
Because these institutions are supposed to help in financing development and ensuring stability. We do not go out and bash the governments in public.
I see.
You can do that. But in private, in the meetings, you tell the governments what is going wrong and how to fix it. Don't expect the IMF or the World Bank is said to come and have a press conference and say the Gambia is doing poor, there is corruption everywhere, they won't do it.
They won't do it.
Because there is a certain decorum you need to have. There is a certain amount of detachment from the internal politics that you're supposed to have. So you cannot say those things. Yeah. But the country itself and the people within the country, we should be able to tell each other those hard facts.
Yes.
Because what is happening is affecting every single person. When you look at the current situation of the country, our debt right now is about $1.6 billion. Domestic debt, roughly $500 million to $0.6 billion. And the external debt, roughly about $1 billion.
So this is not a good picture anywhere, by all standards.
By no means. When in 2017, when there was debt forgiveness during the roundtable conference, a certain amount of the debts were written off because there was nobody Gambia was going to pay that back and be able to implement policies to make.
And there was goodwill because the
Gambia got rid of a dictatorship and brought in democracy without shedding blood. So we're the darling of the international community. A lot of loans were forgiven or repackaged and recycled, etc. But there's a lot of debt forgiveness. When you have that debt forgiveness, of course, naturally, your GDP to debt ratio drops considerably.
Absolutely.
And you're a lot more solvent. You're supposed to use that headroom to borrow money judiciously and execute projects judiciously. You do not go into projects where you deliberately overvalue what you do and pocket the rest of the money. You're not supposed to have projects which cost 2 times sometimes the original price because you just brought in some small additions here and there. We have contingencies in every project. We call them contingency costs. Things could go up slightly, things could go wrong. And in the current situation, the dollar is depreciating seriously.
Absolutely.
But we have that as part of the contingencies. Foreign exchange fluctuations is part of the contingencies. And if the dollar were to depreciate now, well, we should be having more dollars to implement these projects, particularly local currency components. So we should be having it cheaper. Because a number of components are paid local currency, the staff, some of the procurements locally. So the dollars coming in from outside or other foreign exchange, when you change into dollars, you have more dollars. So that foreign exchange component of the cost should come cheaper to you now. But no. We are having just massive corruption in the country. That is what is killing this economy, and we have to say it and be frank about it, because we're all going to have to pay back those loans.
I agree completely. Also, one thing also that I don't get quite often, and that's this. We keep taking loan and putting it into what they call an investment. But these loans apparently can't repay themselves, because if the loans are able to repay themselves, there would not have been a concern over default.
Yeah, you see, some of these...
So then that means we're not investing.
Yes, some of the loans, when we say bankable loans, bankable projects, it's not just the financial side. There is the social bankability of some of the projects. They might be financially unsound. They wouldn't get enough resources to you. But what they do in terms of job creation, in terms of satisfaction of food security needs, in terms of provision of social services like health, education, which down the road, because infrastructure is important. But when you have infrastructure, you don't have the human resources to run that infrastructure, to use it. You're building roads to nowhere. Okay? This road infrastructure is supposed to serve what? Communication, movement of people, and trade. Because that is the key word in whatever we do in terms of infrastructure development, trade. If you don't trade on them, well, you're wasting your time. Why this bridge was built in the first place was trade facilitation within ECOWAS. So that we could have the movement of goods and services and people across not services so much, but goods and people across the ECOWAS region. And you create wealth, you create jobs, you create so many other development benefits from that and dividends. If we do not do that properly, we are not only penalizing ourselves, but we are penalizing the ECOWAS region, because this is supposed to serve the entire ECOWAS.
Yeah.
Now, what we risk here, with the current arrangement, we have to see what they have in place. But our suspicion is that there's something wrong somewhere. And we have to be honest. We hear a lot of people who should know better, who are coming and telling us, no, this is good for the country. No, it is not. They know it's not. But they're trying to sell something to the people which they know is wrong.
You both mentioned the role or the lack of it in this matter of our National Assembly.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, Mustapha just said what they should do now is to call the minister and get him to tell the country exactly what happened. Why did negotiation happen without anybody's thing?
Absolutely.
But also submit all the documents to the National Assembly. National Assembly has the capacity to even fire the minister.
You must have followed a Gambian in the United Kingdom who sent a petition, an open one, to the National Assembly Public Petition Committee, saying
I must have missed that. Okay.
Mr. Nwasi saying
He's
exactly
a
this
good
kind
gentleman.
of things.
Yeah.
His arguments are really widely accepted.
Nwasi is a very good gentleman, very sound, and he calls a spade a spade. Because you see, the National Assembly has that oversight role, which is not playing at this point. For these kind of things to go ahead as well, we need a good regulatory environment. Because when Africa 50, if and when it's going to come in to do this, it needs to have a good regulatory environment under which it will operate. If you don't have that good regulatory environment, Africa 50 is going to have a free hand. I am from the African Development Bank, and I know the amount of good the African Development Bank is doing this continent. But when we go on project negotiations, etc., we also like to have people who are strong about the projects, who know what they are talking about, who will negotiate well, because the person who negotiates a project well, it negotiates a loan properly, you know that we'll implement it properly.
Indeed.
So we have here a case of, I need the money, just give it to me, I'll sign up to anything. No, Parliament should look at that. If they don't think Africa 50, I believe, will not disburse a cent without ratification by Parliament. Because one of the conditions precedent we have in our loans is ratification by Parliament.
I see.
So if Parliament does not ratify it, I don't believe Africa 50 will release a cent.
What I found baffling is that the government is not recognizing this as a loan.
But it is a loan.
It is a loan.
What they call it? You take 100 million from people and you will pay. What is that?
It is a loan.
They admitted there's a collateral.
This is a collateral.
The collateral only comes with a loan.
Yeah.
No, the bridge. In fact, the bridge is only a payment arrangement. They will take the money separately.
Yes.
The bridge is a payment arrangement. They're going to be managing the bridge to raise their money and their interest.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And the thing is also, let them not come with an excuse that it's private sector that can manage these things efficiently. Ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Because they are returning our bridge to us. We are not saying take it over and manage it for us. This whole point is they are raising money.
That's the whole idea, is to raise money.
They are returning the bridge to us. If it is because we are incapable of managing it ourselves,
it's another story.
We wouldn't be handling it.
Yeah.
But these people are just handling it for
because we want to raise money now.
They want to raise money now. That's the point.
That's the only thing.
See, because there are good people in these ministries who, if they are empowered, can run these structures properly and do what is required to raise money.
Absolutely.
But the problem is they are not empowered. We are bringing in political hacks to run these things, and they are destroying our country. We have good people in these ministries, whichever one you take. Empower them to do what is right, and the country will be going where we should be going. If you give it to these fly-by-night politicians who think they can run the country the way they like,
fly-by-night politicians,
we are not going anywhere.
In fact,
and I think that's another issue that the Gambian that's another discussion Gambia needs to have. We not sort of people across the board. I mean, who civil servants, regardless of their cultural heritage, ethnicity, clan, or whatever, who have incredible amount of goodwill to do their jobs right. I have interacted with significant number of people. I mean, I would not have existed if there is nobody in the system who is not happy with the way things are.
Exactly.
I mean, we would not, Malagen in itself would not have existed.
Yeah.
But there are people in the system who just don't like the way things are.
Yeah.
They just don't know what to do and how to fix it, because they are not in a position to move things. They are often drowned because, for example,
you often hear government supporters saying that, okay, these people are saboteurs. You know, there are people who may be very capable, but they sabotage our government.
Because they don't
so
know
they
what
blame
they are
all
doing.
these things on what they call sabotage.
How do you sabotage your own country? I mean, if NAWEC is not functioning...
They said, for example, if a member of, like a senior officer of one corporation, he's a UDP man, because that's the UDP that they always flag about. He's a UDP man, so he's sabotaging. So they blame all these things on sabotage.
The problem is, and I think...
I mean, those your UDP...
I am UDP, and I claim that everywhere.
Yeah, I know, understand.
And you see, I was not planning to go into politics when I came back home here. But when I saw the mess my country is in, I can just sit in my corner, enjoy my retirement.
Isn't that what Plato said? He said, if people who knows refuse to go into politics, then they will be ruled by people who doesn't know.
Yeah, and you see, we are in a situation where, whether you like it or not, you are part of this mess. So if you can help fix it, fix it before it gets too late.
I see.
We have, take a country like Rwanda. It came out of a genocide in 1994.
So why don't we have Mr. Barrow reluctant to bring in people who might not share your political agenda, but they still love the country and they have experience?
Absolutely.
He doesn't give to such kind of
and there are many of them in this country, inside the country and outside the country, who can do so much more and who are willing to do so.
They may not be NPP, but they love to help the country.
Exactly.
I mean, you have to have accommodation for those things. But believing that everybody who is not NPP is going to sabotage you.
Let me give you an example.
Really, sometimes you think
Rwanda did. When they had projects like this, road project or whatever, they bring in Rwandans from the diaspora, from within the country, who they use as consultants, who do much better than international consultants you're going to bring in. You bring an international consultant, he will use the local manpower, the local intelligence to produce the documents and take all the credit. Some cases you will bring them in because it's necessary. But when you have that capacity locally, use it and develop it.
So with all the rumored dictatorship in Rwanda, the government really is open up to people who might not share a political agenda with Kagame.
Absolutely.
But they bring patriotic enough.
Absolutely.
Gambia government may say, we don't have that there. What we have here are politicians. If you bring them, they're going to sabotage us.
No.
Maybe that's their fear.
There are so many Gambians out there. I decided to go into politics because I cannot keep quiet about the mess anymore. And I went in there, and we are intent on changing what is happening in this country. But there are other people who are willing to go and work with the government. I do not want to risk my reputation working with these people because it's so corrupt, it cannot be amended, it has to be totally overhauled. Who took the decision on car power? Who took the decision on outsourcing our energy supply to Senelec? It's not the civil servant sitting there in NAWEC or whatever, it's the politician who was running the place. And we are all in that mess today. So you cannot say the Gambian civil servant or the Gambian expatriate, whatever, is going to sabotage the economy. These guys are most of the time very patriotic people who want to run the country and leave a legacy. The others are looking after their own pockets and whatever. Let's call a spade a spade. This government is utterly corrupt.
Okay, in fact, at this point, we want to change the focus to our last topic, Mustapha and Mr. Manneh. That's been the diplomatic scandal we had from America. As we speak, I think the deadline for our diplomats who've been expelled to arrive should be very near now, 17 July. We also found out the reasons that the State Department confidentially outlined for reasons for their coming. We know that one of the cases was alleged what we will call here domestic violence, but the rest are alleged, fraudulent activities involving visa. In any case, we have 4 senior diplomats been asked out of the United States, and many people think it's a very serious matter because of all nations, I mean, the United States is very important strategically to the Gambia. Some are calling even for drastic measures to be taken against the officials, although some people sympathize them in many quarters. But then it remains to be seen that we've lost a lot of respect or credibility as far as that is concerned. Gentlemen, what do you think we should do about this matter to regain the trust, our embassy in Washington? Mustapha, let me start with you.
Well, I mean, generally, I think that, Gambia, in terms of political appointees going into the foreign embassies, and there were also concerns even at by the dawn of Barrow's era, that the appointments that were made into the foreign service were inappropriate. There were instances when they had appointed people who had to places where they had no capacity, even language training to perform. Like, for example, you send someone to a place where only Arabic and
is spoken
and French are spoken, where the person has no such qualification.
Yes, in fact, that is the number one criteria problem we have
also
found.
You send someone to diplomatic service who had no prior training of what that speciality is about. There were complaints also of appointing people who are merely politicians, who, in fact, without just having training, who just don't have any sort of training. People who wouldn't adequate, in fact, in a normal way, be appointed into government, into public service, into diplomatic service. So those were complaints from the beginning, and they were never addressed. I think those are matters.
So the American thing is just part of that.
Those are matters they need to look into. I mean, before the American thing, we had something happening in the UK. I think some of our members were involved in some selling cigarettes.
Yeah, that's under the Jammeh regime.
So we keep
more or
having
less
this
the
kind
same,
of things, and generally we should just have, if I were the one who was handling things, I would have asked them at some point to bring in Gambians who had the capacity in this field, appoint a proper foreign affairs minister who is going to have his feet on the ground. And avoid,
proper.
Don't
we currently have a proper one?
I wouldn't be a foreign affairs minister and you are doing this you are doing this kind of appointments under me. I would, because you can say, oh, the president can appoint anybody. That's true. But ultimately, the president has to appoint someone with the best advice.
Absolutely.
If the president negates best advice, and I am the one who is advising or manning those people, I'm going to tell the president, I'm sorry. I can't go with it. This kind of ambassadors at large you are appointing, some of them are criminals. I can't work with them. This kind of diplomatic passports you are giving to almost everybody, every marabo, everybody at the village, every guy, every former footballer, I cannot deal with it. I'm sorry. If you don't, that's people at some point have to respect themselves and the capacity they have. If you have a capacity, you come to someone and someone sees that capacity in you and hire you, and that person must respect your advice.
I believe, like many people, I think the best administrative policies and best practice ended with the Jawara regime in our civil service, I want to say, so to speak, because I think this disrespecting institution started with Yahya Jammeh, and we were supposed to correct them in 2016. I mean, it is when Jammeh came to power that we see people being appointed to diplomatic service, people who shouldn't have any business with that. I mean, foreign service, even if you go into these communist countries like China, the former Soviet Union, In fact, for them, they prepare their diplomats from childhood, from kindergarten. They groom you, indoctrinate you in such a way that you become a very good representative of the nation wherever you want.
Because
it's a special area.
Yes, it's a special area.
It's
but
a special.
also
You need education to be able to have the, to even to shade your conduct, your way of speech, your way of behavior. All those have to be trained. You have to have training before you go into to be posted as an ambassador. Because at every level in an embassy, you are an ambassador of a country.
But look at it. In fact, look at it when we sit down with.
Exactly.
When we sit down with. There's a tendency in the Gambia we become too contented. We don't less ambitious.
Yeah,
and when we
settle with mediocrity too
much.
Yeah.
If
you were to go to international conference yourself, you see the counterparts, from other countries.
Yes, and
you look at their CV or listen to their delivery.
Yes,
and you wonder what have we done.
Yes, and everybody is arrogant.
I have been with sports delegations. Yes, when I see sports delegations from other countries deliver, and they tell you that I have been manager of this, I have been manager of this, before they get to what we call ourselves directors, they would have spent 20, 30 years.
Yes.
Look at Senegal.
Look at Senegal. They're talking currently. Our folks were talking about, you were talking about the depreciation of the dollar against the CFA. But look at it. I mean, economically, slowly and steadily, and incredibly fast, we are losing even our own economy to Senegal. So, for example, I'll give you few examples. I had gone to buy shrimps some time ago, and they told me, shrimps now is expensive. We don't get it all the time. And I said, why? Where is shrimps coming from? I said, shrimps is coming from Kafountine in Senegal.
That's in Senegal.
That's one thing. Of course, probably you can shed some light on when we need to do more business in Senegal. Of course, we would need the CFA, which means there will be so much pressure on the Dalasi, and the Dalasi will be depreciated against the CFA. Now, I thought that's the logical economic.
Yes, partly yes.
Now, okay, but look at also the basic things we use here. The Meo sachet we used to have, the Vitalate, the ones that use the peak, the ones that used to come from other countries.
Yeah.
Now they are all coming from Senegal. You look at our Meo sachet and everything. Senegal's commodities that are made in Senegal are flowed in the Gambian market. And you go into our ports, there is so much weaknesses happening at our ports. And the people, when they bring in their goods, they're complaining of exorbitant fees. They're saying the time that it requires to bring out those goods outside of the ports is incredibly longer period. And they are having it quicker in Senegal. So there was one point, in fact, somebody called me, a businessman, said, GRA impounded our trucks at Farafene, and we are having issues with them. And I said, why? He said, no, because they are saying they're going to levy charges that they levy at the ports on our trucks. And we are saying, no, you do not offer such services on those trucks. We had already taken them out of the ports of Senegal. So we bring in them. We are not paying anything. So there was a stalemate. They parked the trucks there. Now that means the port is losing. And each time a businessman needs to go to Senegal to bring his good, what does he need? CFA. Right? Now, that aside, we have our airport, for example. I have quite a significant number of my friends. In fact, there is currently a Gambian who is making a fortune out of that, where he needs to make a taxi to arrange to take people from Senegal to the Gambia. Because now you have significant number of Gambians who are now landing in Senegal.
Yes.
Because you see, strategically,
I know.
Senegal just put the airport in Bour, and I think that was deliberate. Because
they talk about a port in Kaolack.
Bour, it's just about 2 hours drive from the Gambia.
Yeah.
Because here they've put a payment where we have to pay visa on arrival in our own country. People, because of anger, they choose now to
fly to Dakar,
to land in Senegal and come to the Gambia. And when you land there, what do you need? You need to have safer, and you need to come to the Gambia, because you are going to go to Senegal. If you are going to Senegal each time, your people, they make an arrangement to go and pick you up from Senegal. You need to change the dalasi to safer, make some arrangements for transportation to go there and bring you to the Gambia. That's another thing. The other issue is, just let me list a few of these issues. The other issue that we are dealing with right now, foreign visas, foreign embassies in the Gambia are not issuing visas.
Except perhaps the Americans and the British. And the British, perhaps.
Yeah, the British, I think, in Ghana.
Oh, I think the British are issuing.
Now, okay, but the rest, they are all
the
in
Schengen
Senegal.
countries are.
Do you know how much millions? Like me, I was supposed to travel to Netherlands.
Yeah, the Schengen.
I couldn't go.
Yeah.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to go for, there was an investigative journalism event, I think. It was on a human rights something, because I was writing for Justice Info.
Yeah.
Swiss-based Justice Info. Now, it's a human rights related thing at The Hague. Now, I was supposed to go, and I had an arrangement with my editor. Oh, I will come. So I went to apply for a visa. I just made an arrangement. They had already, because the embassy of the government of Netherlands was involved. So it was pretty much easy stuff. So I went and met the embassy officials, and so I came to the Gambia. I left my passport there, and I paid courier services. That means they should have sent it to me when it's done. Yeah. It couldn't come on time, and the time of the conference, a day passes by. Not only that's not the point I'm trying to raise. The point I'm trying to raise, Gambians are pumping millions of dollars every year into the Senegalese economy because of that.
Yeah, it's been like that for Schengen countries.
And never mind the security need we are relying on Senegal to afford. Never mind that, because that we have a country that we can't even trust each other. So you have foolish elites, and they divide people into boxes. Like, this is a Fula, this guy is a, so we must defend ourselves. This is Mandinka, we must defend ourselves. This is Jola, we even have an army we cannot even trust.
Absolutely.
You know, so our security is dependent on Senegal.
Absolutely.
And Senegal is usurping this economy, and violently. You don't have anybody, like, look at can the trade ministry find a way to get access trade records into between Gambia and Senegal? The kind of imbalance you would see will be scandalous. With the exception of Senegal passing through Gambia to go to southern Senegal, Senegal is usurping this content violently.
Aggressively.
Like,
in fact,
it's violent.
In fact,
like,
before we go to Mr. Manneh, somebody just told me that the situation in Senegal is dominating in such a way that in the not too distant future, even airline crews would like to spend their off, which is in Dakar, come here with their other flights to come and join plane free and go.
So I had even
international delegates, he said,
look,
may like to stay in Dakar, come here for conference and go and sleep in Dakar. He told me that scenario is possible.
Just to start off with that, we are talking of OIC summit.
Yes.
If ever it takes place here, which I doubt, if ever it takes
President said we are very ready for it. He told the visiting delegates only a few days ago.
We've been hearing that for the past 3-4
years. We are ready.
We are not.
Well, he said we are ready.
Go to these hotels. Hardly any of them has anything you can call a presidential suite. They don't have it.
Maybe Coco Ocean, perhaps.
Even that is nowhere near.
Absolutely.
What the government should have started with is helping those hotels to upgrade. To start with, help those hotels to upgrade their presidential suites and their facilities. You will be creating jobs in those hotels. You will be creating facilities which are going to stay here. Then you're giving $100 million contract to this Senegalese charm to build a hotel. That will not happen.
Well, it has not so far happened.
No, it will not
15 months.
But it
really,
15 months.
But just to tell you that, if the OIC were to take place today, most of those heads of state come with their aircraft. they'll go and learn in Dakar, stay in Dakar, come here for the meetings and go back to Dakar.
Most likely.
Because we don't have the facilities.
Somebody is telling me that.
We don't have the facilities.
That is possible, yeah.
I was running for the ADB and a facility called Coalition for Dialogue on Africa, where I had so many personalities, heads of the AU, ADB, ECA, former Prime Minister of Canada, Paul Martin, Mo Ibrahim, and what, just name the personalities, about 15 people sitting on my board. When we had meetings anywhere, the kind of suite I had to get for them,
absolutely.
You don't have anything here. I went around here to take a look. There's nothing like that. They're going to fly to Dakar, stay there, come here for their meeting, go back to Dakar. So we are losing even on that. Hotels will lose.
Talk about, how do you call him? The prince in Saudi Arabia,
yes,
the Sultan of Oman.
All
of the kind of luxuries those
all the income they were supposed to make in this country will be left in Senegal. It's not going to be here. Go back to what you said about our diplomats.
Yes, that's where we go.
This is a huge scandal for the country and terrible for our image. But who do you blame? The president who appointed them in the first place. You cannot have the diplomatic service as a dumping ground for failed politicians.
Or for compensations.
If you do that, you are creating problems. We have trained, well-seasoned diplomats in this country. Some are sitting there twiddling their thumbs. We can use them. We have a plethora of them. Some were there not long ago, and they were recalled because they were said to be UDP sympathizers. These are diplomats who are working for the country, not for a party. We had them called by people like Lamin Manneh, Sida Joe, Mbemba Tambedu, Kemisen Sanyang, Fai Sisi, just name it.
Yeah.
Jenaba
Bah.
And
Ramzia
Diab. Amadou Tal.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just hold a whole litany of them. And there are so many others here.
Yeah, who are not even into politics, never been to politics. Yeah.
Who are trained, seasoned diplomats. Why do you leave those people here to send these people out there into those embassies to go destroy our image? Every diplomacy today is about economic diplomacy.
Exactly.
Development. When those ambassadors I just named were out there, what Kemisen Jammeh did, he brought Turkish Airlines here. Ramzia Diab got so many scholarships for the Gambians to go to Malaysia University. You can just name so many of them. What are these guys doing? Just going there to buy their time to wait.
It's very sad.
And then you have those people come back home after destroying our image. The Americans would never send those people back if they haven't committed very serious crimes.
Yeah.
And they are embarrassing to the whole country.
So what should be done, gentlemen, to our embassy in Washington? Many people are saying that in the light of, the number of personalities involved, we probably need a fresh ambassador, top to bottom. Even though, with all respect to the current ambassador, who have never been named to be associated with all the allegations, but people said for the country to regain the trust of the United States, we probably need to get a fresh head, fresh appointments. Much respect, of course, to Mr. Barr, ambassador there.
Probably, but even if you bring in a new crop of ambassadors, this suspicion is going to be there, and for a long time, and they're going to be seriously monitored, and it's going to take a long time to restore that reputation. And every other embassy everywhere else will be looking at what is happening to the Gambian diplomats.
Well, why did they
because
even make
this,
Mr. Barr an ambassador? Mr. Barr is an accountant.
But even there, it's just the wrong selection. It's just the wrong selection of people to these places. But that is across the board. It's not just the embassies. The embassies are the worst case because they represent us, and our image abroad is being tarnished. So that is the worst case. But even inside the country, it's the same thing. But look at also what he was, Mustapha was saying.
Yeah.
When it concerns our relationships with Senegal, our energy production has been outsourced to Senegal.
Exactly.
NAWEC is dying a slow death.
Absolutely.
So we are at a point where we are dependent on Senegal. God forbid something goes wrong with Senegal today and they decide to shut us off, we are finished. No power supply.
Yeah, in fact, NAWEC said the current problems have to do with distribution with Senelec.
But why can't we instead invest locally? The amount of money we're putting in Senelec and Kerr Power, why can't we invest that to develop our own generation transmission and distribution capacity in the country.
Because
we can do that.
And because NAWEC, you've read the last audit on NAWEC, the one that's done by Ernst & Young, the UK-based one.
I did.
Because the problem has been in the Gambia, and that's where my problem is. I think politics would become a distraction ultimately. It has always been. My problem has been Gambia government is not a political institution. Like Barrow is not president of NPP. He's president of the Gambia.
Yeah, that is very
so the idea of when I am criticizing the government, I'm talking about NPP is ridiculous. It's not there.
Yeah,
because Barrow is not NPP. He's the president
of the Republic.
Now, what needs to happen is for Gambian people to find time to sit down and think about the trajectory of the country, whether it's in the side of the economy, in the side of diplomatic, because a nation is ruled. A nation has to have a common agenda. So, for example, whatever business economic agenda we have, that is what our ambassadors represent. Whatever values we have, that is what our ambassadors represent.
Well, Mustapha, it's not what values we have, it's what values we don't have. That is the point today. Look, if you look at this economy and what is happening in this government, we're talking of the ambassadors. Do you think when Hussein Darboe was Minister of Foreign Affairs, do you think any of those people would have been appointed? They wouldn't have. Because
now
now I'm into politics. Because what that's the reality.
But there have been similar appointments under Mr.
Let me come to that. Let me come to that. Some people have been appointed into the foreign service who were in career diplomats, but they did organize for them 1 month of training at Paradise Suite, so at least give them the grounding. These people are just being appointed out of the country to go to these places without any grounding, without anything. Bottom line for me is what? Is when you have that crop of ministers who don't have a backbone to go to the president and say, look, this is not on. I am not disrespectful to you. I am not challenging your authority, but I owe you advice. And I owe you honest advice. And that advice is A, B, C, D. I think we should do that. And you sell that to him properly and respectfully. I think he should be able to listen to that and implement what you're saying. If he cannot do that, then it's time for you to leave.
Okay, finally.
But you know also the...
But I just want to end on one point. Coming back to what you said about our port. Not only our electricity and NAWEC are dying, but our port is dying. And the Minister of Finance had the audacity to tell us that our goods going to Senegal is good for us.
Yeah, he once said that in fact it's a
How
blessing
can that be good for us?
In some way.
Our port is dying. The infrastructure is decrepit right now. Vessels don't come often to the Gambia now. They go to Dakar and they transship from Dakar into smaller vessels, or they just offload there and go away. Maritime companies are restructuring their routes and leaving the Gambia out. They are going to other ports. And it takes ages to build that kind of relationship, and once they are gone, it takes a very long time again to bring them back. Okay. Our traffic to Senegal is lost to the Gambian economy. Everybody's importing to Senegal because you can't do it here. So when you go to Senegal, you leave the money there. You have to pay the taxes in Senegal, you have to pay the transportation from Senegal.
And you need the safer to do
and
that.
You have to pay where you stay in Senegal for a couple of days, etc. The same applies to visa. You want a visa, you go to Senegal, you stay there for days to get your visa, you come back here and you go back there to get your visa, or you probably miss your meeting because the courier service didn't work, etc. Our airlines, coming to the Gambia rather, the same thing. When they can go to Dakar, they go to Dakar, and we're having less and less airlines landing here. They are boycotting us because of that airport levy, the security port is levying, which we are not seeing, which is essentially going to private pockets. So the funding for the security port is diverted to private pockets. The air traffic is diverted to Senegal, and we are killing our airport too. How much money went into refurbishing that airport?
$14 million.
What do we have to show for it? Nothing.
Okay, gentlemen, finally.
But you know also, I mean, and that's where I probably would differ a bit. I think that UDP also has the capacity, its own fair share in this problem, but also the capacity to change the trajectory. Because, I mean, based on the current arrangement, UDP holds half of the sky above the Gambia. I mean, for example, you have 18 National Assembly members.
16.
16, sorry.
Yeah. 15 plus 1.
15 plus 1, yeah. 16. And you have councillors.
15 plus 1.
2 mayors.
Where do you classify the one? 15 plus 1. I find that funny.
Because the one is an independent, but
that's more or less UDP.
It's UDP, but he ran for independent.
That's why I say 16, 15 plus 1.
Yes. And so also you have 2 mayors and 2 chairpersons. Also, you have significant number of councillors. I think about 45 or something. So UDP essentially hold half of the sky above the Gambia. You are just UDP and NPP in terms of power sharing. It's just like that, And so the NPP, based on the politics and based on the power sharing decided by the Gambian people, they have not given Barrow the ultimate authority to decide the trajectory. If UDP becomes powerless and helpless, that's very poor leadership. Because come to think of it, I mean, even by the current arrangement in the parliament, we have seen a bipartisan motion that started an AKI inquiry.
Yeah.
But there has never been another bipartisan motion to do that, and currently we are talking about the controversial loan arrangements
for big vehicles.
The underperformance of the parliament, the underperformance of the parliament, and your members included.
Yes.
There are questionable expenditures that were done at the level of the councils. And incredibly, your members were involved. I mean, some of us had issues with the way the commission was established, but nevertheless, there were issues that were raised, legitimately so. Some issues that were legitimate, and then quite frankly, I think probably you would agree there are also a number of issues UDP also needs to fix. I mean, both from within and also in its own conduct.
Absolutely, and that is the good thing about UDP. We do not shy away from responsibility. There are issues which didn't go the way they're supposed to go, and we address them internally, and we try to find solutions. And you're talking about, for example, the local government authorities. Yes, we have 2 chairpersons of area councils. We have 2 mayors. Okay. These people are doing what as much as they can under the current circumstances. You know that it is under the current Civil Local Government Act. There are certain things and certain revenues they're supposed to get, which they are not getting. So they are working under extremely difficult conditions with the little they have.
And the staff are appointed by government still. For the critical staff.
Well, that's the CEO.
Yes.
And the CEO and finance directors.
And the finance directors, those people are critical.
And these are the people who are much criticized in handling.
And they do not have control over those people. And you have to remember also that the mayors, for example, they direct and guide the municipalities, but they do not take the decisions. It's the councils that take, and also the CEOs and the finance directors have a great sway. So all of those things are supposed to be amended to devolve power to the local government authorities. Because if you look at the current structure, it's like an empty shell to a large extent. They do not have the powers they need to be able to do something. That does not mean that they couldn't have done better. We know they could have done better, and we say it, particularly when we sit amongst ourselves, and we try to work with them to show them, if you think you can do better here, you can do this. We have this relationship going with our elected officers. Sometimes there are issues, like in any party, yes, there are issues, but we sit down and we discuss these issues, and we tell them, we think you're underperforming here. We think you can do better here. The transport issue you're talking about, yes, you had a number of people from UDP who have expressed dissatisfaction about how that went. It shouldn't have happened that way.
Yeah, but the parties didn't come with statements. Like one politician observed, the parties didn't condemn it because their members actually are benefiting from the vehicle.
Right. There have not been any statements so far
from the parties.
So far.
But what is the party's position on this? I mean, you don't mind your MPs enjoying $2.5 million in cars?
And that's what we even know. We've not seen the contract anyway. That's what
Well, we've been told that 2.5.
Same thing.
I think that's credible, yeah.
Same thing. There are issues there, and we have to look at that squarely and address it. That car purchase was a wrong decision at the wrong time, as far as I'm concerned. I hear I'm not speaking for the party. I'm speaking as Lamin Manneh, a member of UDP. When you look at all the expenditures that need to be done in those constituencies, all the hardships that are being faced in those constituencies, and you come to me with a $2.53 million car, funded by the funded by the taxpayer. If I'm in your constituency, I'll ask you questions. That money could have gone to better use, could be put to better use in my constituency. We can drill boreholes with that. We can provide electricity.
And the MP can still have
provide solar.
The MP can still have a good car.
Yes, the MP can have a good car. The MP can have a functional car. They do need vehicles to do their jobs. That is real. But the arrangement as it is now leaves a lot to be desired.
And the vehicles, they keep the vehicles, unlike the ministers who must have to go when they
that's why I say the arrangement leaves a lot to be desired. Because if you are going to have a $3 million vehicle, which you take home at the end of your term of service in the institution, well, you should finance it. You should finance it. If you're not financing it, in my, Amadou Sane came up with a vehicle policy, at the time, which didn't go very far. If I were to be asked for this, I would say, for the moment, get a pool of vehicles which will be used by the MPs when they go to their constituencies for constituency work. Which will belong to the Gambia government. And which will have drivers to ferry them to and fro their constituencies. And because they need to go there. But you cannot, under the current circumstances, buy that kind of vehicle for every MP and need them to go to their constituencies. And when they leave the office, they walk away with that car, funded by the taxpayer. That is difficult to sell.
And your parties, all your MPs, none have raised any objection so far.
For the moment, we haven't seen any.
No.
They actually, in fact, said that.
That's what I'm saying.
I didn't hear anything from Darboe. Darboe often has.
Because there is an uproar. There's an uproar in the country.
One member who also has it.
I mean, has anybody raised any question yet?
Yeah, but there is one member in Parliament.
I'm saying.
Is it two? It's two now.
It's two?
Yes, there's Dawda Cham and Swaibu Serekunda.
I'm saying for
but
the
they
moment,
both are taking it.
Because when the distribution is done, that's when we'll know if everybody has taken it or not. For the moment, we haven't had anybody say they will not take it. But the uproar in the country might make some people think twice.
But then what can they do now? They've started deducting them even before the vehicles came. So they must have agreed to some arrangement.
They did.
This arrangement was there a long time ago.
So they've been deducted now well over a year. There's no turning back.
But also, it's not a judicial.
Even if they are not, even if they don't want it now, they can change it because they've already been deducted.
It's also an efficient way of using public finance because
they've been deducted now for a year, well over a year. Well over a year now, $22,000.
It's the same thing as this
$22,000 they've been deducted.
It's the same thing as this contract
well over
with
a
the
year
Ministry
now.
of Finance. We haven't seen the contract. We don't know exactly what it entails. But if there is an exit clause, that could probably allow them to withdraw and get their funding back.
They may lose they may be refunded. That's what's possible.
Yes, but that has to depend on the contract that was signed. We
All right,
haven't seen
finally, in 2 minutes, President Macky Sall announcement and implications on the Gambia. Already I know Prezo has been put on. For example, the opposition people will be very happy if Barrow should announce today that, I'm going to do as Macky Sall. Maybe you are even in a hurry for such an announcement. Or you are promoting, the issue of him stopping in 2026. But generally, many observers believe that the reality is that in West Africa, or in Africa, the issue of third term is not very popular. One opposition MP, your MP, observed that, in fact, Barrow's coming right now, very untimely, actually, to be associated with third term, and said that may in fact be destroying his international image. Do you agree with that, Mr. Darboe?
That Barrow?
Maybe destroying his own international image by coming at the wrong time, associating himself with third term, which is not very popular in the region.
You mean if that would damage Barrow's
international reputation?
Well, Barrow has no restriction as far as term limits are concerned.
Yeah, but third terms are not generally popular.
Yes, I mean, morally, I mean, for someone, Barrow has said, he's on record saying he is a big fan of 2 terms.
Yes, he said that.
But of course, Barrow had changed his position on that a long time ago. You know that. Because Barrow, when the new constitution came, primarily the reason why it was rejected was because Barrow felt he couldn't go for third term.
Yes.
And he felt that because this idea of discrimination comes from there.
Yes, from there.
So it's because Barrow said the constitution restricted him not to be able to serve.
Actually, it was a cabinet position. They said it would be discriminatory.
Yes. But the whole point of the idea of saying it will be discriminatory is for Barrow to serve third term.
Yeah, exactly.
So Barrow has told us a long time ago he will serve third term.
I see. Yes. In that aspect, yes.
Yes. So and there is no constitutional restriction on him not to.
Yes.
So the only
but
thing
that's what exactly what ECOWAS is saying.
You can only hold.
You must not rely on constitutional technicalities too. They want a uniform.
It's not a constitutional technicality. In our case, it's just the language of the constitution. The language of the constitution is that you can serve for as many times as you want.
Which
in Senegal's
what they
case,
mean by technicality is that when you have the means and the ability to do that, and you ignore it.
Don't rely. Don't say it's constitution. Just do the right thing.
Exactly.
But in Senegal. For Macky Sall's case, it was clearly the case that you cannot serve for 3 terms.
Exactly.
Macky is the one who was
trying to say that
play with technicality and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That was Macky's issue.
Even when he himself had said he cannot contest.
Yes, but for us, it is not a technicality. It's just the language of the law. So now it's just for Barrow to either honor his own words or just go ahead and contest.
Which way do you think he will take?
Barrow will contest, definitely.
He will definitely contest.
Yes. There's no doubt about it. Why would he not?
What do you think?
I mean, he even said it.
No, I mean, you know what? There have been
confusion. There is nothing that there is no indication he will change his mind.
There have been confusion messages.
What confusion? No. The first one was what was confusing, not the second one.
But the second one, he did not say exactly. He said we will do. He said we wait what we will do to them in 2026.
No,
he never said I'm going to do it. I think this must be clear.
But I think
everybody, his lieutenants, they have not left any ambiguity in the fact that Barrow will be their candidate.
Yes.
But most people are also reading that Mr. Barrow perhaps might be thinking of getting out of the ring, but did not want to make that clear now.
They are misreading him.
Now listen, and they also suggested that why is it the point of suggesting that he's going to do humanitarian service, that he has recruited people, that he has a building ready for so and so in 2023, when you meant to stay up to 2030. At least. Why saying it now? For example, don't confuse yourself. What do you make of, who do you take? You think Mr. Barrow's lieutenants are not trying to keep him in power, their candidates, at least on the surface of it, when actually they know he may not be going in 2026.
The thing is...
Look, I think here President Barrow did discuss with the ECOWAS Parliament representatives when they were urging the West African heads of state not to go for 3rd terms. And he did accept. Only Togo, I think, and
Senegal at the time.
Yes, they were the only 2 countries who did not sign up to that. He did sign up to that.
Yes.
Saying he would not. That was the first point.
Yeah.
Secondly, in terms of legitimacy, this gentleman was elected on the understanding that he was going to serve 3 years and go away, and he reneged on that. He wanted a 5-year term. The Gambians gave him that. He wanted a second 5-year term. He got it, even though we thought he didn't get it legitimately, but he got it, and he's there. If he wants to salvage whatever is left of his reputation, this is the opportunity to take and go while he still can. You see, as Gambians, we do not want to see our heads of state leave power and go into exile and go into different difficulties. We want to see our heads of state, like other countries, leave government and become special envoys and whatever for the AU, for ECOWAS, for UN, etc. That's what we want to see. And that requires a certain amount of personal integrity, a certain amount of attitude that will make the international community comfortable with you. I told you I set up for the African Development Bank this coalition for dialogue on Africa. We worked with Mo Ibrahim Foundation. He was one of our board members.
Mo Ibrahim. Yeah.
Mo Ibrahim. And Mo Ibrahim has
the foundation has a lot of money
exactly.
for presidents who
leave voluntarily
who could have
doing
things
of who have been
and normally they
shown
pay,
integrity.
normally
receive $200,000 a year for as payment for life.
For life?
For life.
$250,000
for life.
A year until you die.
Yes. And when you go, for those who qualify for it, because you have to qualify for it, when you qualify, when you leave, you go with $2 million.
$2 million straightforward
as a package,
payment?
Yes, a one-off payment.
One-off payment, $2 million?
$2 million when you go. And then you get $250,000 per month, per
year
for the rest of your life.
So, for example, if it was Mr. Barrow is to, well, I don't know how much Mr. Barrow is qualified now, but maybe 2019 one would have said he was qualified.
Yes, 2019 he would have been. Now I don't know with the corruption that's going around in his government.
No, but at least, what about Macky Sall at the moment?
Again, there are criteria under the Mo Ibrahim Foundation.
Yeah.
If we take those criteria,
Macky Sall may qualify.
Macky may qualify.
No, but
the only problem
people said he didn't live voluntarily. I think that will disqualify him.
That he didn't live what?
Voluntarily. He put under pressure. People died in protest.
Yes, if he decides to go now and he goes, it's voluntary, but it's in compliance with the Constitution. Okay? But his problem could be the number of people who were killed in the past 2 years.
When there was no clarity. When he was pretending that he was going to.
He could have said this earlier.
Earlier on.
The problem too is when you say announce so far away from the end of your term that you're going, allegiances switch.
I see.
And people start aligning themselves on those who think they're going to be the next president.
That's what he said. That was the problem.
That would cripple his government. You become a lame duck.
So in other words, Mr. Barrow.
So
like in the light of in that circumstance, Mr. Barrow, as Mustapha just told us, who has no constitutional
obligation to go.
No constitutional obligation to go. If he so decides to go, then he probably has more credits than Mr. Sall.
Absolutely.
In this circumstance.
Absolutely.
Because Mr. Sall had a constitutional problem.
His problem.
Even though he's arguing that he's qualified, but many people said he cannot go. Eventually he gave up and said, I am not contesting.
Yes.
All right? Mr. Barrow now doesn't have any constitutional obligation. If he so desires now, I'm not running, then he's more qualified.
He's more qualified.
He's more qualified.
The rampant corruption in his government.
No, people, that would not count now. Because
for the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, that counts. That counts.
Okay.
Transparency and integrity in the management of the country, that counts. There are criteria.
But maybe that's not too bad as to overshadow the big coup de grace he would have achieved by saying, look, I am not contesting in 2026. He will be a hero instantly.
Yes, this is the board of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation that would decide, and they could waive that.
They could waive that.
And let him qualify for it. Okay?
That is a possibility. Well, I think you stop here before people said we are just enticing Mr. Barrow to
No, but the thing is, even assuming he were not to get
we are building castles in the air.
Even assuming he were not together, there are other heads of state. There are other heads of state who have left.
There is no restriction.
Who have not had the Mo Ibrahim Foundation advantages and benefits, but who are still held in high esteem and who are used for different types of missions and envoy status in the country. In the continent. So he could be one of those. So I think it's in his interest, in the interest of the Gambia, for his reputation and legacy, for him to take that decision. He doesn't have to. If he doesn't, we'll beat him in 2026.
He will definitely be more qualified. He will fit the criteria more than
If
Macky
he
Sall.
doesn't, we'll beat him fair and square in 2026. That is political.
Well, now probably he will change his mind since you are in a hurry.
We are in a hurry to start.
Barrow has already said what he will do to them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lamin Manneh is a former a African Development Bank official and a member of the opposition United Democratic Party, Mustapha Darboe from Malagen. Thank you both for coming to share your perspectives on the current affairs here on the Brunch, which will be back next week. Goodbye for now.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yona Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yona Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yona Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yona head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yona branch located countrywide near you.